Good evening. I'm James.
I'm William.
I'm going to be a therapist here at our clinic. Um, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good.
Get get stuck in this bad weather at all, or
A little bit. The fog slowed us down, but I was able to get here. It was a little crummy out, but I was able to get here.
okay? Yeah, sometimes traffic's bad, and we're in a weird location, so sometimes people have trouble finding our building. But
I
we
drove
got here.
past it, but I was able to. I saw the sign. And I doubled back. And I was able to
Okay.
get in here.
All right. Let's see what we could hear. All right. Um, so I'm James. I'm going to be your therapist. Um, how do you prefer to be addressed?
I go by Will. Will's
Will?
fine. Yeah.
Okay. A pleasure to meet you. Um, so to get started, we just like to go over the confidentiality about what's shared in this room. It's all private. It stays in between you and I. There are some exceptions to that. I'm a mandated reporter by the state since I am licensed. And that means if any form of abuse is reported um, towards a child, I have to report that to the state. If there's any inclination that you'll commit self harm or that you'll harm another person, I'm mandated to report that as well. I have here a patient's rights and responsibilities pamphlet that goes into detail about what's expected of you as a participant in the therapy session, and as well as what we'll provide um,
Okay.
for our sessions.
Okay.
Do you have any questions at this time?
Um, do you know how this would work with my insurance? Do you know how this all pans out? Like how the sessions or how it gets paid or?
Yeah, so this first session is just kind of an assessment to see where you're at. So this is a free consultation basically,
Okay.
and after this, we'll set you up with Susan out front, and she deals with all the insurance companies. So they'll go over who your carrier is, and it'll go from there. But it's usually about insurance clears about 6 sessions,
Okay.
and then there's always room for adding additional time if it's needed. We usually don't have any problem with how it's billed.
Oh, okay.
We can always work around that.
Okay.
So can you tell me a little bit about what brings you in today?
Well, I guess I'm just at my wit's end with my son. My son Ryan, he's 14 years old. He's a freshman in high school. Um, he was always a good student. We had no problems with him in grade school and in junior high. Um, but I think we had a his mother passed away last year, and we've been having a lot of issues with school. I don't know if it's him a combination of what losing his mom and everything that's going on or what, but he's been skipping school. He's been tardy. He hasn't been turning assignments in. I get calls from the school. They say that he's disruptive, argumentative. He's disrupting class constantly. And it seems like the more I try to get him to stay on top of his grades, the more I try to get him to turn things in and focus on his future. It's like the harder I try to hold on, the more rebellious, the more that he's doing.
Driving more space in between you. It
Yes,
sounds like.
and I guess I don't know what to do at this point anymore. I don't know. I feel like everything I'm doing is making it worse, and I'm not sure how to turn things around.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear about your wife. How has that affected you? What,
Um, Pretty badly. I mean, I didn't take it too well. I've been seeing. We saw counselors and therapy immediately after, and together, my and individual. Um, I thought, I could handle the role, the parent role. That was mostly my wife. I worked a lot,
okay.
so now I'm stepping into this role and I'm trying to be assertive and do what's right. And it seems like he's just really resistive at every turn at everything I'm trying to do. Um, I mean, I think I'm coping well. I'm doing as well as I can considering the circumstances.
Was your wife's death a sudden passing, or was it expected?
it was cancer. She went in. They found out that she had stage 3 leukemia, and she was able to fight it off. They gave her about 6 months. I think we got like 10 months, and then she passed. So I mean, it was pretty hard on the whole family, extended family and stuff as well. But at the time, he seemed to be I don't know, maybe it was just denial, or he wasn't it didn't soak in yet. Maybe he was shocked. I don't know, but he seemed to handle it pretty well. It wasn't until um, he started the school year, and then all these problems started occurring with his schooling. But we had months before that, before the school even started, where things seemed okay. And even towards the end of last year, his 8th grade, before going to high school, when she passed, the grades were still good. He was still holding himself together. So I'm not exactly sure what's stemming it.
And you mentioned seeing a therapist after your wife's passing. Did Brian participate in that?
He went to a couple, but for the most time, he's pretty reserved. He's pretty quiet. I mean, he's always gotten good grades. He was always a good kid, but he was always quiet. He was always a bit reserved, so he
Okay.
didn't share much. He always said he was fine, um, which even made it more confusion for me with this whole being disruptive in class and outbursts and argumentative, because that's usually so uncharacteristic of him. Um, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe he's hanging out with the wrong kids. That might be part of it too. Because he meets up with some friends before school, and then they either don't go to school or they're getting there really late, and then the school's calling or they're turning him away because he got there too late. And I don't know.
Okay. What would you say um, is your main concern at this point? Is it his behavior and acting out towards you?
He, maybe I'm just trying to avoid the problem. It hasn't been so bad with me, but maybe I'm just not addressing the issues. It's been mostly with his school. If I try to bring it up with him, he argues with me. I think the biggest issue I have right now is I'm worried about his academics, what he's going to do, what he's, the adverse effects he might be having on his future here with, slacking on school, because this is high school. These are those years that define and try to get you into school, or or a trade or whatever it may be that he wants to do. But
Yeah.
if he's not doing the work, if he's not showing up, it's going to be detrimental to him. So I guess, yeah, I'd like it if things were a little bit calmer, if we had a better relationship. But I guess I'm more important. Just my concern is his truancy, his grades, his schooling, because that's important. You know.
So his behavior in class and the grades is what's worrying you the
Yes,
most
yeah.
about it. Okay.
The behavioral issues, the truancy, skipping school, not turning things in, like all those issues around his academics. That's my biggest concern. That's where I'm having the most issue. Um, at home, he's pretty good. He does his chores. He'll help clean up after dinner. He's not argumentative or disruptive in any way. We get along. So I don't understand what's happening with this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde when he goes to school.
Real change in behavior when you're not present
Yes,
or
and it makes it difficult too, because you talk to teachers, you talk to staff, and I get defensive for him because they kind of like paint this image of him like as the bad kid because he's new to the school, but I don't see any of that. I'm not seeing those behaviors. I'm only getting it from the school, and when I try to bring it up with him, he plays off like it's no big deal. Something he'll try to make it sound like it was just a disagreement with a teacher, whereas the staff is saying like he was screaming and stomped out of class, and I mean it's just I'm getting completely opposite
really
stories.
downplaying the issues to
Exactly,
you.
exactly.
Because they're kind of mentioned there isn't too much open communication about the current behaviors. How have you tried addressing the problem since it's been brought to your attention?
I've tried rewarding him. I've told him like I've told him if he goes to school, like I'll drop him off, and if I see him go in, I'll tell him I'll get him a game or whatever he's wanting or whatever he's been wishing for recently, or give him money to go hang out with his friends. But I don't know if that's working too, because I'm hearing that he might be going into school waiting until I leave, and then he just leaves anyways. So I stopped that, and I don't know exactly what else I can do to him. Um, he for the most part just wants to sit around and watch TV. I don't know exactly how to motivate him. I guess maybe I haven't really been doing much about his behavioral issues.
So there hasn't been much of discipline in his life. Was that present when his mother was around, or was there a change
Um,
afterwards?
Mom was always the bad cop. I was good cop, and I part of it, I think was because I was always working. So like when I was with him, I wanted it to be quality time. Like,
Okay.
so I was the buddy, like we'd hang out, just have a good time. His mother was mostly the authoritative one.
Okay.
Um, I guess maybe I always had difficulty stepping into that role because I'd like him to be, I'd like us to have a good relationship. I'd like us to be friends, especially with my wife gone. It's just me and him.
So it's difficult because you have to now assume the responsibility of both parents, and there's a role change on your part in how you're raising your son.
Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. And I guess I'm not doing too well in that shift and that role change.
Well, you've raised a good child so far. I mean, with everything that you're doing, you've had some huge barriers to overcome with the loss of your wife. It's a very difficult and hard thing to deal with, and you're holding your family together at this point.
Attempting to, yeah.
Sometimes, the fact that you're trying and that you're showing that you're there for your son is probably what he needs. Is there any way that you're able to possibly increase the time that you spend with him? Um, Not necessarily with with all of the games or however it was that you got along, but in just time where you sat and talked and maybe listened to what he had to say about the loss of his mother or possibly his current change in behavior.
I mean, that seems like a really good idea, but I mean, I was raised in a household. My father, you don't show emotion. You don't really talk about feelings. So I guess part of me is I don't even know how I would approach that. We don't, I guess even when we are hanging out, we're usually watching sports or doing something. We're not really talking. We're together, but we're not, there's not much communication going on.
One of the things that we have available are coping skills courses that we offer. And what they seek to teach is just kind of developing new ways of looking at ourselves and operating our own lives. And it sounded like you have a pretty hard, difficult time with losing your wife and assuming a new role as the single father in the family. Would you be interested in possibly basically parenting courses almost? Just trying to relearn maybe a different role or approach to how you're raising your child.
Do you think that would help? Do you think that would help me? I mean, do you think there would be a strong benefit to that? Do you think?
There's always a benefit to seeking further enlightenment in ourselves. Um,
I
it's
mean,
kind of open ended on the effect that it'll have on your son, but maybe if he sees, maybe if you kind of lead by example and show him that you're working on things, that
yeah,
then maybe it might open up a line of communication between the two of you.
yeah, okay. That's something I would try. I mean, what I'm doing isn't working, so yeah, I'd be open to that.
You had mentioned Ryan's kind of future and your concern over the grades and everything. What would the situation look like if you had your kind of perfect outcome for the fix of it?
Uh, my perfect outcome would be for him to start going to school, clean up his act, not be hanging out with these new friends who I think are having, some questionable influences on him, doing his homework, um, turning things in, stop being disruptive, just being respectful and acting how I know he should be. I guess my perfect world would be him being successful and doing better than me and going on, and I'm not necessarily it has to be, some Ivy League university, but I want him to like have a trade or some type of degree and know, like, try to figure out where he's going. And just I feel like he was on the right track, and now he's just the opposite of going on the right track. I just feel like he's doing the exact opposite of it. But yeah, I guess my perfect world would be, an ideal situation would be not having to worry about his academics, knowing that he's doing his homework, going to school, showing up, and being in class, and not being disruptive and not argumentative with everyone. Yeah. I guess
That,
also I also wish I could have, I guess, a better communication with him. I mean, I guess all this time I thought no communication was fine, but it seems no communication isn't doing us any good.
yeah, not talking, hearing maybe his concerns or possibly even other plans that he might have for the future. Um, if you had to rate the, I guess, your involvement or like how much you want to be involved in changing your son's behavior on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being like you pretty much just want to be standoffish and kind of let things take their course, or 10 being really want to make a change and are willing to pretty much do anything, where would you say you fall on that?
I want to say 10. It's important to me. I'm here. I came here looking for help and advice and to figure out what to do. Um, it's very important to me. I mean, especially with my wife gone, like he's the last print of her. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's a part of her, and that I want him to be successful. I want him to have a stable career in life so that he can grow up and be a productive member of society and
yeah.
contribute. Yeah.
So you're definitely taking a positive step in the right direction. I mean, showing concern and you just being here is putting forth the effort that you want the change to happen. Um, when you open up, if we could work on opening up that first line of communication with your son, would he be opening to possibly doing a joint session? Um,
Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess I got to try some better communication with him because we don't fight, but maybe it's because I'm not being as assertive because he's just adamantly against it. He says he doesn't need it. He doesn't want to go. Um, he didn't like a lot of the therapy we went to after his mom passed. Um, it was like pulling teeth to get him to go then. And I mean, he was a little bit younger, so it was a little bit easier to get him to do what I wanted.
yeah.
He's getting bigger. um, I mean, I mean, is there any suggestions? Like, what could I even do to try to get him to come? I'm not even like, I mean, I can try, I can ask him some more. I can see if he'd be up to it, if he'd be willing to it. I feel I guess he's my son. I could force him and tell him to, but I don't know if that's gonna be beneficial if I'm forcing him to. Um,
Probably get more pushback
exactly.
with that
Yeah.
kind of an approach. Um, it would seem like in a situation like this, where you haven't mentioned really too much arguing between the two of you, there's just kind of an absence of communication.
Yeah.
In the past, if there have been attempts at communication, like does he open up to you? Like has he ever gone through like possibly the grieving process of losing his mother? I know you mentioned going to the therapy and everything, and you said that he wasn't necessarily receptive of that. Do you believe that he's still grieving and like those unresolved issues there?
I think so. I think that would be a correct assumption. He just seems to like bottle everything up. Maybe he gets that from me. Um, but I mean, he he doesn't outwardly show signs of it really directly impacted him, but I know it does. But he's always been cold, more quiet, more reserved. Um, but yeah, it's. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. It's clear that there's some unresolved issues and things
Hmm.
with his mom. And I mean, there's a lot of issues we just didn't talk about, we didn't address, and everything's so hectic with her being sick and ill, and the doctor's appointments and medications. I guess like we kind of stopped being the family role, and it became more of like the health care. We were like the nurses,
Okay.
trying to help her and keep her around. She was always the glue of the family, the relationship, the dynamics. She kind of was like the bridge between the two of us.
Okay.
So I guess it's we always figured you'd have her there. So now that she's not there, it's harder, to kind of read each other. We haven't ever been good at that with each other.
It was a big responsibility for the two of you to both take on, with him as a child, the taking care of the parent and the mother in her final days, and
Yeah.
it sounds like when you describe your son to me, it sounds like he's almost mirroring your behavior, kind of how you described your upbringing as being a little more isolated and not really showing the emotion. So I think when we brought up the coping skills class, that it sounds to me like he really idolizes you, and he's taking after kind of enacting out your behaviors. And I think it would be very beneficial for him to see you getting help or trying to change. And either have you ever openly grieved in front of your son?
No, I try to look strong in front of him. I try not to let him see that because I think I don't know. I guess I thought he needed like to see the strength.
Okay. Maybe as a possibility that you might consider possibly telling him how much it's hurt you, sharing the loss that you feel over losing your wife, um, giving him an example of possibly what it would look like to share those emotions, and that it is okay, to either cry or to talk, to open up with someone.
Yeah, yeah, that might. Yeah, I think it's probably long past due. I can try that.
I think it's a good positive step to take for both of you in the healing process. Um, you really need to do it together as a family. I think it'll help both of you, um, to get through any of the issues. I believe the behavior that your son is exhibiting, there isn't anything wrong with him. He's acting out because he has all his emotions bottled up, kind of like you mentioned. And as a young teenager, hormones are flying anyway,
Yeah,
and adding that stress on it, he doesn't really have an outlet, and there hasn't really been a role model leading in that direction of how to properly express those emotions.
yeah, that, yeah. That sounds like like nail on the head.
So so far we've kind of discussed the main concern that you have as being with your son's behavior and the grades and everything. But I'd like to throw it out there that you should maybe put a little more emphasis on a concern over how sad or hurt he is still, and that's really where the behavior problems are coming in. So you mentioned the rewards and the possible like punishments for the behavior, and that's just kind of like putting a band-aid on amputated leg. You're not
Yeah,
really
probably, yeah.
dealing with the underlying issue, and that could be why there hasn't been much change in the behavior.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so I think as a first step, um, for this week when you're at home, maybe just try sharing, if you have a moment to sit down with your son, just try and share with him your feelings, or do you talk about your wife at all around
Right.
him, or is it she's not brought up?
We bring up good times, we talk about some of the better memories, but we haven't
Okay.
really, not since she got sick. We haven't really, we haven't really discussed that, or I guess there's a lot of things we haven't really discussed.
Yeah, I think as a first step for what I'd like, um, if you agree with this course, um, go home, try and sit down with him, and don't you don't necessarily have to have a discussion, but let him know how you're feeling inside. Let him know how much you miss your wife. About just tell him the concerns, and he doesn't need to have a response right away. Just kind of see how he gauges it. This is going to be something new for him, for both of you to go through. So it's going to be a process of
Okay.
addressing that. Um, do you feel comfortable with having that conversation?
Yeah, especially after this, yeah, I feel a lot more confident. I feel comfortable. I think I can do that. And I kind of feel silly that I didn't think of it beforehand. Maybe I couldn't see the forest through all the trees.
Yeah, it's a it's a tough thing having to raise a child on your own, and you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank
And
you.
just yeah, we can always use self improvement, and this is the first step towards that, and a better outlook for you and your son. How would you feel about coming back for another session next week?
I actually think it would be good for me. This has been good. I think this was helpful. I was really hesitant before I came in, but I don't know. I just feel a lot better. I feel a little bit more confident about speaking with my son and addressing some of these things now. So yeah, I definitely would like to keep meeting.
All right. Yeah, we'll set up a plan. Try and set aside that time when you can sit down and share with your son, and that'll be, we'll see how it goes, and we'll take things and address it from there.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
All
Sounds
right.
like a great plan.
Well,
Thank you so much.
it was a pleasure meeting you, and thank you for sharing. And I will see you next week.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.